All right, well, I'll call this meeting to order. This is a meeting of the Rules Committee of the Representative Town Meeting. And first item on the agenda is approving the minutes of February 10. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second, please. Thank you, Joe. Comments? I had one. Just that we have to include the agenda that we approved for the RTM in the minutes. So we just,
I asked that.
uh,
Did you ask me?
I actually, when you were in Thompson, no, you were golf, well, you were busy, so I asked Krista.
Okay.
I did try to
I just
ask
thought
you.
maybe I did
You were
wrong
busy.
answers.
No, you were
Um,
busy. And then I asked Krista, right, because I'd sent them and then I'd send an edit, and I said, do I need to include the agenda? And she said no. So, and I just wanted to get it in on time, you know, as close to on time as
there's
possible.
no.
But, yes,
But
good to know.
we will have an amendment to the minutes to add the agenda
Yeah,
that we
no
approved
problem.
for the RTM.
That's why
So,
he's the main person and I'm just the.
A motion to approve the minutes as amended, thank you. Second?
Lois.
Yes, Lois, all in favor? Okay, opposed, I see none.
Who moved that motion?
I did.
We got the,
I moved it.
Or Mark.
no, we did a
No,
redo.
no,
As amended was,
Susan.
Susan did.
who seconded it?
I did.
Thank you.
Save your seat.
District 3, new member,
You didn't even do that. Sure.
go, go, go.
We caucused in a new member on March 26th, and it's Sheila Quinn, and so we're glad to have her. And we had a vacancy in education, PHNS and TGSNA, and she chose education, which she would like to be, and so that's where we would like to put her.
Okay, so we have a motion from Adele to put Sheila Quinn on the Education Committee. Have a second? Somebody get this.
I'll get a second.
There we go, Patty.
Patty seconds.
Saved us there. Great. Questions, issues, discussion? All in favor? Please, hands.
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? I see none. Looks unanimous. Okay. Adele, will you let Sheila know that she's on education?
Yes, sure. What a time to come in. She knows. I think Jack very kindly, passed.
Well, it's so
I'll take
quiet, I
care of it.
there's a hush. Great. Items for discussion and assigning committees, modification to Appendix D is listed next, but I'll like, with your permission, to postpone that because I believe that the Board of Selectmen is voting on what the fines would be tonight, and then I think John will be down here later on to give us what the results of that is, so we'll know how to fill in the blanks in the motion and the resolution. Okay?
I don't show that they're voting tonight, but just FYI. Their agenda doesn't say action, but just saying.
Well, the Z-Man said that.
Okay, no, fair enough. I'm looking at their agenda, but okay.
Yeah, that was face to face, that he said, and I asked him if he was coming to our meeting tonight, and he said yes, so. I'll put it off until he arrives. If he doesn't
Okay.
arrive, then we'll figure out what to go with beyond that. Okay, approval of the dispatchers union contract. That looks like in assigning committees, F and B probably.
I would think so.
Yeah. Primary, I don't know if any,
Did we do primary?
It should be primary, it's numbers, but we should be,
He only does bonds.
I'd suggest he crunch the numbers on it, we just talk about it, but we'd be, public health and safety should be secondary.
all right.
Because it's just a contract. So you'll do a recap.
Yeah.
You'll do
Okay. one of our favorite topics. Well, I'll take a motion then for F&B primary and public health and safety secondary.
I'll make a motion primary.
Greg,
Second.
second from Mark. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? I see none, hear none. It's unanimous. Next is Appendix B, one of our favorite topics.
Yes, on the agenda.
Fresh. Frank Kemp.
Not on my agenda.
No, that's for the.
For.
Okay, thank
I
you.
did the same thing, I was marking up
Oh,
that one too.
Thank you.
Sorry, guys. It didn't work.
That was the only one.
Are
This
we,
doesn't match.
Exactly.
Thank you, so Appendix B is on our agenda at least 3 times this week because of different sections of Appendix B.
can I just ask a
So
question?
this is a, I'm sorry.
Question.
Can I just ask a question? Like, what is, are we reviewing, tell me what we're doing with Appendix
We're
B.
doing different things with each one of them.
Okay,
Okay, so this first one,
okay,
which has to do with section 2,
okay,
has to do with the way people are entered on the ballot to be elected to the RTM. If you look at the yellow sheet that I handed out, rather than handing out a bunch of papers, would you go down to the 3rd page? And at the 3rd page, you ought to see, way up at the top on the 2 lines, is Appendix B, Part 2, Section 6. Third page in on the yellows. You may recall that at last month's Rules Committee, we reported that the TGSAA had developed this and approved it and forwarded it to Rules, which we did last time, and then we submitted it to Wayne for what you might call codification. I don't have a better word. I used to call it whereasing and therefore, but those whereases and therefores are called pleadings. So what Wayne has done in the interim is put the pleadings on the top, and then you have 3 paragraphs. The 3 paragraphs hopefully cover all the situations. The first paragraph has to do with the way a non-incumbent, an average general citizen, can apply to the town clerk, fill out the appropriate form
It's
in
a
a
resolution.
certain time
It's the second
frame.
page.
And then their name will appear along with 25 names on their petition. And then if everything is all right and Krista approves, it will appear, the name will appear on the ballot. The second paragraph is an incumbent RTM member may indicate that they would like to remain on or be on the ballot without collecting the 25 names. And that's what we're accustomed to do. That both of these processes need to be done at a time frame before early voting starts, and that's what caused a certain amount of agita this last year because of the imposition of the early voting deadline, moved the deadline up. The third paragraph has to do with what we call a walk-in, write-in. And somebody who has the privilege of walking in the day before the election, registering their name with the town clerk, and then they can be, for a certain district, then within that district, they can be written in. And that is the extent of it. I would like to ask that this be placed on, that we approve it being placed on the April 21st RTM ballot approval.
So TGSNA has been assigned already to this, okay?
Can I just ask one more question?
Um,
So Wayne, we took a look at this, you sent it to Wayne. Did he make any changes?
No, he didn't.
Okay, perfect.
He didn't.
That way we know that your committee,
It's a small win for us.
yeah, we know
Every
your
once in a
committee.
while, he'll straighten out some grammar or
Okay,
a logic bomb that we have in there, but this one passed.
great.
We got the note from Krista today. I thought, maybe I must have misread it. I thought it said something needed further discussion.
Not this one. Not this one.
Okay.
So you want us to vote on just this one?
Well, what I will do is, we'll, under item 4, we'll put together the agenda for the RTM.
Okay.
Right now, we're just reviewing the items, any discussion, and in some cases, assigning committees. In this case, not required, but we're going through what the pieces are for Appendix B here.
Excuse me a second. Hold on.
This just did, $100 fine.
Yeah,
Hot
that's
off
what's
the
coming in. It's Monica.
Got it.
Voter friend.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye. Those are friends up in the Board of Selectmen who gave us the magic number. And that will wait for a moment.
All right.
Don't wanna confuse things.
All right.
So, do we need to vote on putting this on the RTM?
We will later, when we set the agenda under
All right,
item
fine.
4.
Fine.
But maybe what's being asked, do we have to vote on this language to say that this is what we will put on the agenda? I think that's the
Correct.
question.
Correct. When we decide to put it on the agenda, that would be the language.
Okay.
So do you want us to move a motion now?
Apparently not.
Okay.
That's where I was going, but the answer is apparently
I
not.
mean, no, because we'll be setting the agenda, and that's when we set the agenda, that's the language that would, otherwise you can't put it on the agenda without the,
Well, but we should have a discussion, if we're changing the language.
Is there
it should be now.
anybody that is against the
yes,
language?
yes, right, but we're not, as far
Well,
as I
we're just checking on
understand.
it.
Yeah,
So I just want to thank Frank and everyone for the process too.
Yeah.
When they went through, particularly the end, of just getting it to the chairs and the vice chairs and getting feedback and.
not an easy process. Okay, so, part 2, part 5.
Part 5 and part 6 are bundled. Talking about part 6 is the project that Jack and I have been working on for a while. And it picked up at a pace in the last couple of months, where another round of, where we picked up after a certain round of delay.
So just,
And
can
what-
everybody find part 6 here?
Part 5 and 6 are coupled.
Where are you, Frank?
Yeah, I see.
They were distributed, it was distributed by Krista on Thursday.
Okay, so
Sorry,
it's
what's
not-
that?
Oh,
It's
part
just-
9,
it's
which
under
is
It's
the
hard
part
to
cover.
say now.
It's not.
No, it's not in the handout.
Okay.
Not, this was part of our email. And we refer to it as the 11-page document.
Wait,
And we
so,
we reviewed it at our last meeting with a 2-column format. One was, on the left was the format that's now in Unicode, and the right showed us with the redlining interjections what the recommended draft is. That has been approved by TGSNA for release to the committees, the standing committees, for their review and collection of comments. That came back to a TGSNA meeting on the March 24th, and they were approved, embedded in the draft with some minor, quite frankly, they're really grammar changes and just technicalities. And so the draft that you all have now has been approved by TGSNA and approved by all the standing committees. So again, okay, and to pull part 4 and 5, while we were working on, part 5 and 6, while we were working on part 6, which is the definition of the duties and responsibilities of the Rules Committee and standing committees, that's the 11-page document. We discovered that there was no reference to Robert's rules. And so in order to get it in there, we needed to put it up in, bear with me, part 5. And there it is. It's like it's a one-line addition. And that's it. We also, it defined what a quorum is. We discovered that in Robert's Rules says a quorum is what the organization says it is. You know, looking to Robert's Rules for definition of our RTM quorum was no help, because they say each organization can define it the way they want. And so it's appropriate that we solidify our understanding that 51 people is our quorum. So you'll see that notation. And the materials we received from Wayne, which Krista distributed, it breaks it apart. There's a little modification to Part 5, which is what I discussed, and then the 11-page document, which we've all had to review for a while. So again, as I did a few minutes ago, when the time is right to put it on the agenda, I recommend that we approve the document for consideration by the RTM.
Okay. Questions from anybody?
I'm just looking to see where it was. Krista, you sent that to us at when?
I sent an email at 6 o'clock from Wayne,
6 o'clock.
forwarded from Wayne Fox, that
Tonight.
came in over the weekend.
Okay. It wasn't the one that was in the original, it didn't come to us the first.
It's not part of the
Came today at
packet.
6 o'clock.
Oh, okay, sorry, I was looking in the wrong spot.
I got
because
it after business.
I don't have any questions, because I haven't looked at it all, to be honest with you, from 6 o'clock. It's just, what?
There's no change, yes?
Once more, many thanks to town council's office. We had sent, I think 2 times, the drafts of what we were working on over to Wayne in an unofficial preview mode, so that when he got hit with the 11-page document, he knew it was coming, and we're so pleased when it came back without any changes. Because after all these reviews, it's perfect.
Okay. Further question, discussion?
Yeah.
All right.
So
we'll
there's
go
a
on
question
to-
here.
Yeah, yes.
Sorry, this was the section, Frank, we were speaking on the phone. I just was curious if you recall what town council's opinion was on this item. It was in Appendix Section E, in the proposed code to have a secret vote. I'm just not familiar with
sorry, where is
secret
that?
votes in government bodies.
Krista, I'm
Section-
not sure I know what
Section
that-
E
what
is
that
in Edward.
For what?
Appendix B, Section 6.
We
I have it on-
Section 6.
Right on page 2.
Yeah. Okay, bye.
That's folks,
Is it from the email, Krista, also, sorry, or part of
yeah.
what was printed out?
I do not know what Frank handed out. This is the two-sided, two-columned document,
Okay.
and the,
We don't
I-
have that.
Section
It's,
6.
we're looking, no, we don't have it in paper form, but it's on, you got it on your computer, it's what you sent at
okay.
6 o'clock.
So nobody had seen that before, okay, all right. Section E, okay.
But I don't see section E or something.
I have it on page 2 of the document.
Okay, hold on.
Krista, I'm having.
Oh, DE, okay, all right, gotcha.
You're with it?
Okay, E,
Awesome,
yeah,
awesome,
yeah,
awesome.
okay.
Actually, Krista, I'm having trouble following you. Can you tell me what page
2.
it's on?
Page 2?
Page 2,
Page
right,
2.
right column, E in the hole, E in the brackets. Halfway down the quarter of the way down the page. Prior to the annual meeting, it starts with.
Okay, I see what you mean. Yes.
Okay, now I just
That
lost where I
that
was.
is following,
Oh, the section you were looking at.
Yes.
It's the resolution amendment to Appendix B.
Towards the bottom of that.
5 and 6.
Towards the bottom of that paragraph.
Resolution appendix.
Again, I don't wanna get into details if this is something you guys haven't really
That's
looked
the
at,
title,
but
resolution amendment to
No,
do you want
Appendix B,
the-
Part 5 and
you
6.
guys wanna take
I mean,
this?
I was-
Or-
Yeah, I
Trying to
can't
go
vote
for
on
the
this,
report
just so you know,
at 6
since
o'clock.
I
I'm not-
haven't looked at it, so
Yeah.
I don't feel comfortable.
then
I'll
I'll-
abstain.
I'll not, I mean,
I mean, the proposed code additions that came in tonight are, 8 paragraphs. Or more.
Well, you can table it to the next meeting if you want.
What they're trying to get the voted on in this meeting.
Well, Krista, thank you. My only comment on this is that in many cases, we are adjusting the right-hand column to conform with current practice. And it has been current practice to have the ballot, for example, if Ms. Smith and Ms. Jones are voting, to announce that Ms. Jones won it, but not by 48 votes to 57. It just has not been our practice to do that.
Okay, just
And so there we
sharing, if you were going to engage in the discussion of this document, moving forward, that from my experience, I've never seen a secret ballot.
For moderator,
government
for
work.
moderator.
I have not seen a secret ballot in government work when voting
Yeah.
upon.
Well,
But it's not my vote, I'm just sharing my experience.
Point, I would just say that none of our committees, nor TGS&A, over a period of months of review of this, have stumbled on that or objected to it. So I'll just leave that at that.
I'm just sharing with my observation.
Okay,
This hasn't changed from the last time.
further discussion. All right. We can, if there are any objections or thoughts or whatever, when we get to voting it, whether or not to put it on the agenda, we can discuss that.
Is the word secret bothering you? Because when we do vote for, when there are votes, we write it down and we fold it up and we hand it, like when we're in our District 1 caucus, so I guess that would be considered, I mean, is it the word that is disturbing you?
Thank you. It's maybe less, more just the practice. When I voted on chair for Board of Ed, voted for superintendents, that vote is always public. It's always transparent as to who voted for whom as an elected official. That's been my experience. Frank is correct, in your town code, Appendix B, it has said secret. That was established in 1957. I'm just sharing that is not mirroring the practice that I have seen in other government bodies, but it is at your discretion as to how you want to move forward.
It is how we do it
It's
now.
how we
It is how you do it now,
been
it
doing
is just other than how other elected bodies
Now,
operate.
I'm not surprised that you haven't seen it other places. This is a practice that's unique to the RTM in selecting its moderator. And all I can say is,
Absolutely.
I remember that from the get-go. You served on the RTM. Do you
Yeah.
remember who was elected then? Karen? You know, most of the
It was
time,
Karen.
most of the
Karen
time
and
the
Sarah.
elections
Or
are
unanimous.
unanimous and for one person.
I-
So I can remember over the many years, they may have had one contested election.
But the
Um,
Board of
Well-
Ethics, is.
Oh, I can remember one time, since I sit up front,
Yeah,
Karen called, or somebody called on me to be part of the committee to open the things and report back in a confidential manner, so-and-so won.
No, again, I'm just sharing the observation of how other government bodies in my experience
You're
have
perfectly
operated,
correct.
but
It's
this is
unique to the
your
RTM.
discretion.
And
Absolutely,
it's ultimately the RTM's.
absolutely.
For us, the question is, do you want to put it on the agenda of the RTM for a vote? And you can make a decision on that when we get to it. But any other discussion or any other points? Okay, let's go to part 8.
All right, as promised, this is Appendix B evening. So the third thing we have to talk about is a modification to Section 8, the Part 8, Section 4. Now, we've all received the emails, but what I have done is, in the yellow sheet, the yellow package, the last 2 pages of the yellow package are labeled Appendix B, Part 8. Excuse me, that my Appendix B, Part 8, yes, Section 4. And it is a list of 11 items in black. And we all received the 11 items in black earlier. But this is printed out. It has 2 red entries on it. Look at the second page, which is the last page of the package. And you see 2 red entries. The first one reads, in the event that no candidate achieves a majority, blah, 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 blah. That phrase, let me back up a
I
second.
don't have any, don't see what you're saying.
Here, go on.
Second page?
Second page, the one that's stapled together, Adele.
I don't have a last page.
Bad collating here, take mine.
Here, you can share with me.
I don't
You have to have the last page.
I mean,
It may be the same last page. You certainly have a
All
last
right, Mark.
The collating was done at my kitchen counter about an
tell you,
hour.
it's in my mind.
That page is probably on my kitchen counter because I was badly collating about an hour ago.
Thank you. Okay.
When it comes to defining how the elections, multiple positions are open, which is frequently the case, we looked around on different ways of handling the protocols for electing within a multiple environment. One of them was ranked choice voting. And our town council suggested that if we could stay away from that, there's some complications with Connecticut state regulations. I have not researched it, but I'll take his word for it that it would be just difficult and not to get involved in that. So we came up with a phrase, excuse me a second, we came up with a phrase that is replicating the procedure that we defined for the RTM to use in election of the ethics representative. If you recall, we had a system lockup. It went on for 2 months. And that lockup was when we had multiple candidates for one position because of a split among the, I believe it was 4, and then it was 3. Because of the split, no one of the candidates got a majority, and you needed to have a majority to win. So after worrying about that on the election to the Board of Ethics, we came up with a magic phrase, if you have that situation, you would drop off the lowest person and vote again. And that you're going to get somebody, if there are 3 candidates and you locked up, you drop one, then you have 2, one of them's going to win. If you had more than the process just a little more lengthier. We replicated that logic into the way a district caucus would be able to resolve the problem of no one candidate getting a majority. When we transcribed that information over into this version, we dropped out a phrase by accident. And that's what that red thing is today. So we'll talk about the second red line in a moment. Susan, in the interesting way you said, what are we doing with these resolutions? Are they going here, are they going there? And I said, each one's a little different. This one is different in that rules asked TGSNA to look into the situation of how a caucus is organized. So what happened was, we did and reported back to rules, and there was a discussion at our last meeting, some good suggestions. So we went back to TGSNA, and they voted these 11 out with this mistake. So this evening, we're not, my understanding is we're not voting this automatically onto the RTM to be static, but if we discuss it, because we commissioned TGSNA to look at it, TSDA did it, comes back with a recommendation, it's still rules' issue, rather than automatically going to them. So there we are. Now that's a lead-in to item number 12, which is on there. Balloting will be conducted on a confidential basis with results announced by the chair. The TGSNA met on the March 24th. That wasn't there. As soon as we adjourned, several people said we ought to fix that, we ought to put that in, the balloting was to be confidential, and, well, who announces it? Well, the chair announces it. And when we circulated this draft, as soon as TGSA approved it, on the 24th, we sent it out to the 6 district chairs for their review and comment. Now, when this all started, we had gone out to the district chairs, and they had reviewed, and they had commented, and their comments came back into TGSA blender and sausage making, and this is how it came out. And then once TGSA approved it on the March 24th, it went out to the districts again, in a sense of, see what we did? Do you have any more questions? Anything else? And with number 12 on there. And the comments came back from the district, and fine. No particular issue on that. So we did not convene a special meeting of the TGSA to look at number 12. It seems like a reasonable addition to the pattern of 11. And so I submit the document for our review tonight, and hopefully I recommend that we approve moving this to the RTM for the vote.
Okay. Any discussion? Yes.
I cut you off, Lois. You were
Yeah, Lois. Excuse me, Lois.
a year ago, an hour ago.
It doesn't matter. I mean, that's not what I'm talking about, what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to understand the voting. I don't understand how ranked voting works. So you've totally wiped out anything that you said on that, because I don't know where, you said, no, we can't do ranked voting. Well, I don't know how ranked voting works.
I'm sorry?
I don't know how ranked voting works. And
Neither do I. It's a Californian thing.
Alaska's
There are people who advocate it.
Alaska, I think, is the only state that has forced ranked voting.
I think New York City has it.
New York City.
I don't understand how that would be different than what's here, but that wasn't why I was raising my hand, so.
Well,
Why I'm raising my hand
Go ahead,
is,
go for it.
It's
You have the
number
floor.
7, isn't it?
yes, it's number 7. District caucuses may be held in person, hybrid, or remotely. However, proxy voting or absentee ballots are not allowed. I would like to propose that, I don't care about proxy voting, but that absentee ballots should be allowed. And the reason that I say that is these meetings are called on short notice. Like, it could be called 4 days, minimum 4 days, but it could be 5 or 6. It's not like it's been on your calendar for 6 months. So there may be difficulties getting a quorum, and I think having new members review is really important. So I think having people's bios, and you know who the people are, that we should allow that people can vote, ahead of time and say who they want on. And that was what was in previously in Appendix B.
Well, I guess that's my point to the comment on that, is that I don't think we should be doing anything that's taking away some rights that we already had. I mean, refining them, yes, but this removes the right to, if you're not there, to be able to vote, if it's in person. Now, if you want to make it complicated and say it has to be, if it's in person, it has to be hybrid, so that gives people that opportunity, and if they don't choose to do it, well, that's their choice. But I don't think you want to take away that right of being able to vote if you're not there.
Well, the flip side of it is, I'm not sure I have a position yet, but just the flip side, and it was brought up by a few members of our district, I don't know if it did for other districts as well, but people believe that you should be there for the interview, and you couldn't vote if you weren't there for the interview.
Yeah.
So if you think that it's okay to vote with just reading a bio, then you could vote absentee, but I think there are many that think you need to be there for the interview.
Are you talking about the District 1 representatives? Because I actually have an issue agree with both you ladies on 7, but also with number 9. I personally feel like the candidate should be there.
Absolutely.
Whether they are doing it via Zoom or hybrid, or if for some reason this candidate can't do that. We've done a caucus over a 2-day period for District 1. I have a much harder time with both 7 and 9, but I mean, we're making people, you have to have 25 votes to, if you're trying to get on the ballot.
Oh, no, this isn't the ballot, Patty.
No, I
This is-
understand.
she's-
I'm saying,
Analogy.
I'm now acknowledging, thank you, Krista, that if you have to do the work to get on the ballot, why would you not even, certainly at the Board of Selectmen, when they're putting people on commissions and they're interviewing folks, I can't imagine that ever voted for someone who did not show up.
Well, I think that takes care of itself.
Is there what?
In other words, it kind of takes care of itself. Because why people, it's unlikely people would vote for somebody that they didn't bother to come.
Yes, so, but
So,
why do we even
but-
include the line may not, that
I just
basically
want
do
to,
not have to be
I'm just
there?
reporting back from our district that literally the only feedback I received from members were those 2 points. And they felt strongly that people should be here. Now, those were just 2 or 3 people, but I feel the need to put it out there.
Sure.
Meaning that the voting people should be there or
And the candidate.
And the
Both,
candidates?
7 and 9.
Seth, my recollection was this was a District 4 issue where there was a candidate who questioned whether or not they had to be there
Yes.
in order to run, and the town council opined that the person did not have to be at the meeting.
Pause. One case, a case that I'm very familiar with, a question like that was posed, and town council took the firm position that the district should figure it out. So, boom, cards are in the air.
Then I feel that the person needs to be
Thank you
there.
very much.
Well, also, the other problem is, so you can certainly read a bio, but when you're interviewing someone, you're
Yeah.
asking the same question.
Completely.
100%.
So if in the bio, the person looks phenomenal, but the question has to do something related to the town, and the person hasn't even given you their answer, and
And how
other
they
people
carry themselves
have.
and how they communicate.
Yeah, I would wanna, even if they're on the telephone, if they can't physically be there, I would almost say, okay, at least if they call, if the candidate calls in. But I have a real problem if you can't ask everybody the same, they should be asking everyone the same question, so that you're all on a level playing field. Because, let's face it, if someone has their friend that they really wanna put on, and they can't come to the interview, and, other people make whatever point they are, it's not a level playing field, and I think we all wanna be on a level playing field.
I don't agree that they should have to ask the same questions, because I might know you well, and there are 2 things I don't know about you, but I might not know Adele at all. I might need to ask her much more basic questions than I would be able to ask to refine yours. So I think the interviewers, and this is not in there, so I don't probably need to waste everybody's time tonight, but I don't think we need to ask the same questions. But I think we should be thinking very carefully about 7 and 9, and I recognize that those who've said it's not the practice we've had, that, again, people have been able to interview or present themselves as a candidate without interviewing. Given the process we're going through right now and we're looking at this, I personally don't know that that's a good process. I think the minority has
I see no issue with us voting to amend these. They've been through a process, but ultimately, it arrives here. Rules Committee,
So what is the process
Make a
if someone wanted to amend 7 or 9 or both? What is our process tonight to do that?
a person would make a motion to amend, and it would get a second, and we would vote, whether it gets changed,
And I would
Wait.
note that this would likely be, I don't call it a binding vote, but what we decide is what I recommend, what we decide goes to the RTM.
Okay.
Right.
And
No,
not
that
back
was-
down to
Right.
TGS.
That was that was really the root of my
that's-
question, Frank.
No,
So it
that's-
doesn't need to go to town council, and it doesn't need to go back to
Let
TGS&A.
me amend that
It
amendment.
needs to go to town council.
If we change something tonight, which we probably will, it should go
well, that's true,
To
this is a
town council.
resolution, yeah.
and get back a clean copy.
But it
So
does
that
not,
when Krista sends out the package in 2 weeks, our colleagues on the RTM get a clean package to vote on.
so I guess out of respect for TGS&A, I'd like to hear, I'm not sure why, I guess we're debating this because it started here, but why did your committee feel that these 2 were appropriate? I mean, we've all kind of said, but I didn't watch your meeting, and I guess I should have, to hear why.
I'm prepared to argue the case, but I really prefer,
I don't want to
it's
argue
all-
it, I just
okay.
want to hear.
I got a smart aleck answer, which is it's on the tape,
Yeah.
both of them, and there was extensive discussion, and this is what they decided and voted on. And that's why I'm really, if we change something tonight, I don't wanna go back there and bother them again. If we vote on something, we're rules,
So
we
you're
make,
fine with that?
we're
But I don't-
rules, we
but-
make the rules.
But it's not a matter of bothering them. What is the process? That's what I need to
That
know.
was my question.
That is what we should be following, whatever the process is.
So then maybe I misspoke and said I don't want to bother them, but I would say that they've considered it for 3 other meetings, measured the discussions. We've pulled in recommendations from the district early on, and then 2 weeks ago, we went back and validated this with the districts. So I'm content that, in terms of, except for these 2 red things, I'm content that the process has been fair and just and thorough.
I'm not questioning the
Yeah,
process.
Except,
She just asked us
and
to
a decision
let them know.
tonight
Yeah.
to amend it, which I can support. I don't have a problem with us amending this tonight. And we go over to Wayne, and we get an amended, nice clean copy back that Krista would send out to our colleagues on the RTM for the vote.
I just want to know.
I think that's the procedure that we
I think-
can live with.
I appreciate that you think, I appreciate all the work. I just want to know, what is the legal responsibility of this committee versus sending it back? I'm not arguing the point, I want to know the process.
Yeah.
That's how we get ourselves in trouble.
This committee is now in the position of deciding what goes on the agenda of the RTM. The RTM can look at it and vote to switch it right back.
Okay.
But we can change it.
But there is, yeah,
Then I'll
we
make
can,
a
I
Well, I'm
believe,
gonna
yes.
say, I'll make a motion to delete number 9, because I will say that it will, could bet that it would be deleted on the floor at the RTM. So we don't love having things amended all the time on the floor of the RTM. So if everyone voted and felt comfortable with deleting 9, it's a cleaner way. Thank you for all your hard work with your committee.
I'm not sure I would want to delete
I
it.
would-
I would just delete
What would
the,
you say?
I would delete the word not. That's the motion I was gonna make.
Candidates, you would just say candidates are required?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
If I could just add a comment about 9,
Yeah.
does not the committee have the right, if they feel strongly with the way this is worded, that the interviewees should interview in person, and the interviewee chooses not to attend, to just not vote them on until they come to an interview? I like the idea of leaving the discretion to a particular committee, because I flipped that around. We're talking about the examples that have been cited are individuals that are unknown, we don't know their views on certain things that are before the RTM. Flip it around, if it's someone who's coming back to the RTM who is a no, just is not available that week or 2, that would delay them coming on, so just a possibility.
My
It's
concern-
so rare.
my
I think
concern-
it's so
It is rare.
rare,
That
you have
is
a
rare.
second meeting, I
That is
think
rare,
this
but
is,
Yeah.
we
Or
feel
Pesci,
strongly.
right? Well,
But
you've
my
seen that
concern-
scenario.
Well,
Yeah.
One at a time.
Mark,
I'm sorry.
one second, Mark, give us that again. What,
In a nutshell, in 9, the first part, right? By leaving it where it is, if a particular committee feels that the candidates should appear in person for their interviews, they can certainly not vote them on until they come and interview.
so you're saying leave not in?
Yeah,
But doesn't
Okay,
that
all right, so-
insinuate that?
I'm just saying, I
I
think
don't
it
agree,
works.
so I'm gonna make a different
All right,
motion.
so-
Yeah, no, I just,
Michael?
I'm not necessarily saying that's the way it
Michael,
should be, but I think
No.
you've got the flexibility.
What's the?
How would you phrase it?
I would take the word not out. I hear what Mark says, but I actually don't want to give them that discretion. I could think of there ways that the system could be manipulated in that, where I'd rather have it be required. I'm just one vote though.
So when they had 6 candidates for District 4, I ran the Zoom meeting for Brian. Now, so everybody was on Zoom, so it wasn't necessarily a hybrid. But 3 candidates that voted, one was in a car driving to Washington where they pulled off the side of the road. One was at a dinner in New York where they went into the phone booth at a club to do the interview. And it was, the process worked in that, the way that was written, they wouldn't have been allowed to do that.
No, that's not true.
But,
I would,
but
It says by
like
person
or electronic means.
means,
Or,
yeah.
or electronic,
Yeah.
okay.
And that's the,
No,
that's the
I
important
100% agree with you.
part.
Yeah,
Because
electronic,
you're
okay.
defining by person or
100% of
electronic
what you agree, what you
means.
just
I heard you
said.
say the in-person, I
Yeah.
didn't.
No, I'm
say-
just saying, I take the word not out, I leave
Yeah.
everything else, and the last phrase, if you don't have it in front of you, says in person or by electronic means.
Okay, I agree.
Peter? You
I
have,
would,
no?
Oh,
That's
never
good.
mind.
Frank?
I'd amplify Mike's comments. Look, I told you I'm neutral on this, I mean, we go with the flow. But I will say, reporting back, one of the anecdotes that was reported in the TGSA meeting, which is on tape, is that one district had a really very well qualified person who wanted to join, and the kind of was a sentiment that they should join, but they were in Hong Kong. And that district cut them off and said, we'll see you next time. They could not candidate because they could not attend. And that was a
That's
shame, it was a real
that's
shame.
chair's
It was a real
decision.
shame.
Again, we've done two
This is
days.
anecdotal, this is anecdotal.
We've done two different days.
All I'm doing is
Yeah.
reporting
Yeah.
what happened.
Yeah,
And that was perhaps the genesis of why it's phrased the way it is and why the committee supported that. We are going to vote on this in a few minutes, so let's do it.
How about suggest?
No.
Candidates encouraged, sorry.
Because then it's,
I think it should be required, so, again, it could be one vote, but that's
No.
where I will
Can
come out.
Can I ask a
All right,
question?
so, Krista, you have a
Just a,
question?
just observation, because I deal with all the chairs when they're trying to schedule these caucuses. To the point what Frank, you sort of just brought up, and I think also with District 4, is that, does this document address the discretion that the chair has to hold the caucus? Is the chair gonna pick one day, and if you can't make it, you're in Hong Kong, you're SOL, or does,
That's what it says.
or is it expected that the chair would use his or her discretion to accommodate all interested candidates, or something like that? This way,
So you're supposing we have a rogue district chair
2 days.
who refuses to call a caucus? No.
your scenario you mentioned with that person in Hong Kong who could not make the day which worked for more people, I mean, to what,
Yeah, but, yes.
that's the problem.
I understood your comment was whether the district chair was obliged to hold the meeting within a certain time frame.
Or
Was
just
that your point?
To accommodate.
to accommodate all interested
Well,
candidates.
If
That
someone- If
issue.
someone would like to phrase that and add that in there, but I would think that that's sort of like
Well,
assuming
because that
a rogue.
happened to another candidate who's now on, she couldn't make it, so she wasn't present, they didn't vote for her. So, I mean, it does happen, where they
We have to
can't,
assume.
you can't get
we have
everybody in
to
the same room at the same time.
Assume among people of goodwill that the district chair
Yeah.
wants to fill the vacancy.
Yes.
That's why he's a district chair.
Right, but if you have more
Because there are
candidates than
multiple
vacancies,
candidates, then it's-
The,
I understand Chris's point.
I mean, you can throw it in there, you hold it over 2 days, like Patty said, they did over 2 days. I don't know.
the
Then if they
district
can't make it that,
chair
they do it 3 days.
is elected
Yeah, they're
to be the chair,
Okay,
and that's why they get paid the big bucks.
Okay.
So,
fair point, yeah.
you know, they're not gonna be district chair the next time around if somebody doesn't like the way things go. And also, in between the elections, their phone is there and they do hear from the rest of the district. So I think allowing, or just following normal rules that the chair could decide that, and most likely would decide the best way to get candidates into the district. That's their ultimate responsibility.
And the best way is to have a full ballot on election day.
Certainly,
Thank you, Patty.
gotta get
Thank
those
you for
little
your hard
districts going. Michael, did you have more?
No.
Oh, okay. All right, so,
Someone ought to make a motion.
Is there- is there a
That's
motion?
one.
I
We
gotta
didn't
be- I think
finish
Mark
the
started a
seven.
motion, so I just don't know.
okay,
Then
so
I'll make a motion.
I would ask for a
Just
motion.
I will make a motion.
Was that?
Just for
Okay,
nine.
Michael.
Just for
Mark,
nine.
are you typing over there?
I am making a motion.
Oh, that's
on-
reassuring.
On number 9 of Appendix B, Part 8, Section 4, we remove the word not from the phrasing.
I second it.
Okay, second. Further discussion? All those in favor?
I'm sorry, I was distracted. Could we read the motion again? I'm sorry. What is the motion?
I made the motion, Frank, that that we remove the word not from number 9.
Appendix B, Section 8,
Section-
Part 8,
Part
Section 4.
I assume you knew that part.
Yes.
So candidates are required to attend their interviews by caucus, but may do so in person or
Or
by
by electronic means.
Great,
Okay.
So Michael made the motion and I
And
seconded
Susan
it.
seconded.
Okay.
thank you.
I was with the discussion.
Joe has discussion.
Joseph, please.
In light of how our attendance is dropping off, and we're gonna put somebody on the RTM that doesn't even wanna show up for an interview, what does that tell you about what they're
Thank you,
gonna do
Joe.
when it comes
Yes.
time for our meetings?
I agree.
Mhm.
100%.
I think it's more that people can't rather than don't want to.
But if they don't do it this time, maybe there'll be an opening next time.
Or actually,
Anyway, we should just
I
vote.
think the most
They
important
can do
thing
it by
about,
electronic means.
Yeah.
I think the most important thing about number 9 defines that they can do it in person or by electronic
Right.
means.
If they can't take
Because
20
now we
minutes
have
out of
Zoom.
wherever they are,
Years, 5 years
You're
ago,
on.
we weren't using Zoom, now we are. That's an
I've done calls from
important.
home.
There seem to be a lot of ways out on this, so,
Yep.
I was
Yeah.
waiting
All right.
for that. All right,
my friends, are we ready to vote?
Yes.
All those in favor?
And are encouraged, and it's gonna, if we just take the word not out, it's gonna read clumsily.
No,
No,
Oh,
no, it's not.
isn't
Candidates are required.
Candidates are required to attend
Yeah,
caucus,
What's
but they
clumsy?
do so in person by,
Do you remember who's the
perfect.
What's clumsy? I'm
I was just
listening, but I don't
afraid
hear.
the phrase would be clumsy just without that word.
Why is that?
No,
No, it's good.
Okay,
We're good.
Who was second on that?
I was
Susan
second.
was second.
Susan's
Right.
Susan.
All right.
All right.
Was that unanimous?
Okay,
Oh,
one
We
more
haven't voted
time.
yet.
Now they voted.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, I'm saying all those in favor, please. Thank you. Opposed? I see none. Oh,
Frank.
Frank's opposed.
Frank's
I
opposed?
switched my vote. I was going before.
Wait,
Are
Unanimous.
you in or out?
What is your
Frank?
Yeah,
So are we
Thank you,
leaving
Frank.
7?
I'm a member of rules.
Frank's in.
It's unanimous.
All right,
To answer your
it's
question,
unanimous.
Mark.
Thank you
So are
very
we
much.
discussing
thank you for your
7 now?
very hard work.
Okay, now
Yes.
we just go back to 7, please.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to
Now,
know.
folks,
My work here is
before-
done.
Folks, before we move on from this, have we got anything more on number 7?
That's where
Adele
let's go.
Adele was gonna say something.
Oh, I don't know, I think I said my thing. I don't think we should be reducing people's rights. So we need to write this so that, or either drop the last second sentence, or figure out how to do it so that people can vote and have the chance to vote.
By proxy, by absentee.
District folks, I mean, we did
Yeah,
that
no.
in District 1,
Yeah,
and
for
we
District
did
ones.
have someone in Hong Kong who was not able to vote because at that time he was going to be in a meeting. And so, but he reviewed all of the resumes and he then sent in his vote.
I think we had 2
But for
people
making
at
a
the last
candidate
time.
show up, shouldn't we make the member show up?
So, but those,
Yeah.
I mean, these are long-term, so, I mean, it's interesting that we were kind of juxtaposition on these two things, but, these are people that have been
But
on.
we shouldn't be basing,
The district,
in my
but-
opinion, we shouldn't be basing this on people. We have to
That's
base it on the
exactly
wording.
right.
Like, we have
Correct,
to
oh,
not,
yeah.
So we can come up with a million different things, but we want this to be 10 years from now.
Yes.
When most of us might not be sitting around this table, because we're retired. So we have to be so careful on any of this, that it's not about the person, it's about the
Yes.
wording
Correct.
going
So
forward.
would you be comfortable just deleting the second sentence of
No, we need to be
7?
specific whether we allow it or not.
Yeah.
We shouldn't leave it up in the air.
You're probably right.
So if you wanted to allow, we.
So Adele wants to allow it, so I would assume, Adele, what you would make a motion if you were to make one is to delete the second sentence of
Well,
number
I mean,
7.
that's the beginning, but I do think you should be allowed to, vote.
Take out the not
So,
again.
so make it
Take out
in the
the not.
affirmative.
So wait, we're gonna have the candidate has to be there, but the voting doesn't, is what you're saying.
See, yeah, that's why
That
I don't,
doesn't-
I will, I mean, I'm probably opposed to that, but I understand
I
the
don't
point.
mind, if they need to be there, by remote or
If-
what process.
Are they
but-
on Zoom or something in this, or are they just sending in a vote without
It's a
seeing the person or hearing the person?
I just don't want people to have less of rights when we finish this than they did
But see, I'm
before.
not, I'm not concerned about less or more rights, I want the
I am.
right answer.
Yeah.
I am.
No, I am, I hear you, I hear you, but I'm not,
Can we
I'm
vote
not
on the
sure.
sentence,
what the
however,
recommendation
proxy
is coming
voting
from.
for absentees are not allowed, up or down, whether we agree with it or not with that sentence,
Will you agree with 7 as stated?
as stated?
Mm.
Well,
Just to
the
move the ball a little
sentiment that you'll see on the tapes when this was discussed?
Well, that was back to your point about a quorum issue.
Let him finish.
Go ahead, Frank.
All right, so,
Frank,
Frank,
Frank's gonna
Oh,
discuss
sorry.
what
Go
they
ahead.
said.
yeah,
how they-
I'm just saying, so, what do we got here, guys?
What you were seeing on the tapes is a good full discussion of this. And the takeaway that they voted on and approved was that absentee and proxy are subject to abuse. That
I agree.
someone says, I'm going to vote for Ms. Jones in advance and issues a proxy for that. Or another way of looking at it, an absentee vote for Ms. Jones. But the night of the caucus, these other candidates are splendid and it's a contested election. But we've got this hangout here that could mess up the voting.
Or to
Based on, and not based on the personal part. Now, we know that the person can come and make a presentation, and one would hope they'd make a good presentation, but that we don't know what the presentation of, we don't know what the absentee voter or the proxy voter really had in mind of the qualifications of the person. And so the essence would be, that's what the feeling was. So, and it has, I understand, I have not had personal experience with this, but I have understand that it's been abused, where someone will hold several proxy votes and vote them mechanically, notwithstanding what the other people said.
I don't understand what you mean by
I
that.
don't think you can
Do you
hold.
know what I mean?
I don't understand the
If-
very last
I
part.
think
Proxy
saying-
votes, well, let us assume, it doesn't say whether the proxy votes are issued to another member of the caucus or to the chair. I have, personally, when I couldn't be at my caucus, I've given an indication to my chair.
Yeah,
And then when I checked in later, I didn't know, of course, they're confidential, but my candidate didn't win. And
so is it not
I
trusting
should
the
have been at the
chair?
meeting to make a vote on the people who were being considered at the
Well,
meeting.
that is my point, which is.
Anyway, so this is the argument, because in this role here I'm in tonight, I'm the conservative person arguing for the way it is, okay? And so I've just put in my justification. I don't want to continue to argue with people, but that was where the sentiment of the
Yeah, I listened to it.
Well,
I listened to it and I still didn't agree with you.
so my point is that if it's important for people to interview, which we just determined it was, I think that people shouldn't vote unless they hear the interview.
I agree.
I mean, you used an example, if someone given a proxy or even an absentee, and they didn't hear what the other great candidates did. Well, I'll go flip to the other side. What if they voted for Joe Smith, and Joe Smith made some horrendously bad comment in the interview, yet he has 3 votes locked up because no one heard that. I just think.
Can we vote on the sentence?
Okay, so, my
And
friends,
how many must have been in interviews were like, oh my God, that's not what I expected to
speak
hear.
up.
Yeah.
Question,
hello,
okay?
where do we want to go here? Do we have a
Joe's
motion
I have
on
a
session?
question.
The gentleman would,
If
I like
we
it.
allow proxy voting or absentee voting, what happens to this if you got 3 people and you get a locked up vote?
That's right.
No, you can't do that.
It doesn't
That's
work.
what, that's what Michael
That's
said,
what I was
okay.
basically saying.
So,
you have to be there.
Yeah.
do we have a motion on number 7?
I don't have one, I like it the way it is. Adele may have one though.
Del, if you want to motion change.
I don't like it.
Well, vote that
The
way.
motion is I
You're-
don't-
That's why
Take that
we're
one
here.
out.
Vote yours and you'll get defeated,
Kick
that's
Kick that
all.
one out. Make a motion that you delete 7. No, okay.
Did
I don't
you-
hear a
Is that a
motion.
motion for Mark or
I'm
not?
about to,
That was a motion.
I'm about to move
Sorry.
on.
Okay,
Motion.
all right, I would
Motion.
say I would say proxy voting or absentee ballots are allowed. That's the way I would change it.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a sympathy second, never mind. There's a
Well, I'm
second,
concerned about a quorum.
all right.
It isn't.
No, so we have a motion seconded, ready to vote. Those in favor? 1, 2. Opposed?
Yeah.
Okay.
You made a good point.
So it's 2 opposed.
So it's-
I mean, 2 in favor, what do we got? The rest
Everybody else,
opposed.
everybody else.
Yeah, everybody else. Good. All right,
So everything stays the way it is.
yep.
So the wording stays the
Motion
same.
fails.
7 stays the way it is, 9 changed by 1 word
Right.
deletion.
Yep.
I voted for your amendment. I did not vote for mine.
Can I give you a proxy vote?
I'm going to remember that.
Can we
Yeah,
settle this at the fact?
All right.
yeah. Can I just say,
You
I,
owe me one.
All right,
I don't know if she's talking to you or me.
she's talking to me.
Oh, okay.
I've known Adele long enough, she's talking to me.
I do,
Okay.
thank you both.
Okay.
Can I just say, the point where you said,
Yeah,
because my point was, we want to hear how people are in their interview, so how can you not show up? It's the same, it's the flip side of the other side.
Yeah.
If you voted,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the
All right,
sounds great on.
so,
Let's moving us on, let's move on, Seth.
So we've got, on Appendix B, Part 8, Section 4, a motion to approve as amended.
To put on the agenda.
To put on the agenda, exactly.
I'll make the motion.
All right.
Wait, are we,
Second,
I thought we were doing all the things at once.
we will, if you want, this, because we had a lot of debate on it, I was thinking, well, maybe it's better to have a vote on this now. If you want, I'll hold off until we decide later. Is that okay?
Yeah, I just
All right.
wanna
We
make sure.
had our.
All right, we know, we voted on the language. We'll vote when we get to 4 on putting it on the agenda, okay?
Can I just clarify, I have one version, another document has a bullets 12. Which version are you approving?
It is everything on, as I understand it, on the sheet that says see changes with
The one with the red.
with the amendment of
The
number
one with the
9.
red. Give that to Krista, she can have mine.
Okay, no, I have it here.
So the only amendment is number 9.
1 word came out, that's all we
One
did.
word taken out, that's it. The rest of it,
So-
Krista's asking,
Wait, let's.
or Krista's confirming that we have voted on the document as presented on the table tonight, which has 12 points on it,
yes.
as opposed to, or in contrast with what Wayne sent over with 11, because he didn't know.
Wayne
that.
said 11 and TGSNA voted on the 11. Okay,
Yeah. And the Rules Committee approved
the 12.
Right.
moving it to 12.
I'll put in
Okay.
12 bullet for
Thank you for
All right.
Oh, I'm sorry, last but not least. Sorry, one more question on this.
Another question.
Yes, just more for formatting purposes. What is the intent of this 12 bulleted document? What happens to it? I'm sorry, this is more of a procedural question, but I am confused.
It would go back to be revised by town council, right, because they wrote the
Thank you.
resolution. And then the final version supervised by TGSNA would go out if the,
Quite frankly.
if it's
well,
voted onto the agenda.
Okay, I'm
We
sorry.
have to still do that.
Here's the backstory.
Oh,
The backstory is that this list was developed with the district chairman and the GSNA back and forth. And it was a list of procedures, a list of items. And I was surprised when it went over to town council that it came back as just a list of items.
no, exactly.
So when you look through the town code, the different formats that we see, and it's a little bit, it's not a jumble, but you do see some that are very detailed with paragraphs, you know, like section I, and then double I, and then several paragraphs in at the numbering system. And this is a very simple numbering system, so I would expect that Wayne's shop decided that this simple numbering system was sufficient to send it to Unicode as is. If over the next week or so, they renege on that and present it in a different format, that's okay, as long as the concepts are in here.
So is this document expected to be reviewed for formatting by town council from Unicode?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
Oh,
And
yeah.
was this body gonna vote on what they create?
no. Because we've agreed on the text.
So this is a
So
very
we're just-
straightforward list,
Yeah,
which I was surprised it survived his review that way.
But they probably.
But nonetheless, he sent it back to us with the pleadings on it, ready to go.
Maybe ask him specifically to address the format work.
When I send him the corrections, I will then ask if he wants to reformat it. It certainly has our blessing. And if he does do that, then it should be back in time for the package.
Right.
okay. On to revisions to the town's harbor ordinances.
So I have a
Etc.
procedure, I have very much of a procedural question.
Yes,
So this document was sent to rules by the Board of Selectmen. So tonight, I'm assuming, we are going to assign it to committees. Do those committees have the authorization to amend anything in the document? And if they do choose so, where does it go from there? And then if we have a public hearing and it needs to be amended again, I just, it's very confusing, and I think it's important for everybody to understand the actual process. That's why I had asked your originally town council said they were gonna be here,
Susan, Krista and I had a good discussion about that this afternoon.
from town council.
And, no, it hadn't involved Wayne at this point because this is so early in the game. But we do want clarification on the following question. Method A would be, it would go to the committees, maybe they would fuss with it. Then a revised document would go to a public hearing. And the results of the public hearing, the public's views, we probably had some good ideas, would then go back to the committees again for finalization to go on the RTM. The other system, which I'm in favor of, is the document that we have now that they've worked on for 2 years and is a complex document. Then we have a public hearing on it and listen, and then send it to the committees to incorporate the public's comments and put that committees to work to evaluate what they've heard. And it'll probably be a joint committee, either 2 committees or 3 committees working in cohesion on this, because it would be counterproductive to have different reports. And that'll be a delay, but there we are. So system A is sort of like a sandwich. Committee, committee. System B would be, once we accept this evening, is recommend that the committees be appointed and that they have a public hearing.
And yes, the answer to your question is it can be edited.
But it doesn't have to go back to the Board of Selectmen. It just goes to a
No.
public hearing and then to the floor of the, then back to the committees and then to the floor of the RTM.
Oh, to the committee.
I'm not a lawyer, and so, but my opinion is that the selectmen gave it to us. They finished, they gave it to us to bring to the RTMs. I don't think we have to go back to them.
I don't think so either, but I just
I'm
think it's
hoping not.
important.
No,
That's
I
another
think
thing we can
it's
check
straight,
with
it's
Wayne.
in the hands of the RTM now, and it's legislation.
Okay. Okay, and the public hearing, who exactly holds the public hearing? And how do we notify the public?
Adele? Adele and I also talked
Well,
about this.
We talked about it, I'm sorry.
I'll be interested in how
No,
that
I've been asking,
conversation
I think
went.
it's
down.
The RTM holds the public hearing. Okay, and so that probably would be held in conjunction with the committees, the people that would run it would be the committees that are assigned to this.
So we can get into that.
And I think, just to add a little bit, is that it would be wonderful if at that public hearing, probably before, that there was a presentation from the harbor master to inform folks. Okay, or at some other time, if that's not a good time, but that would be my hope.
But is it, so that goes back to the, is it,
And then
but
it
it's
goes
not
back.
his document anymore.
But he's best to explain it, I have to say. But at that point, if we do it, the second scenario that Frank said, this is his his thing, it goes, you know, to the public hearing. He can explain it what it is, and then we still can edit afterwards, but at least, I mean, I will say that when we had our meeting and we talked about this a little bit, some people didn't really want to discuss it because they really wanted to hear what the public had to say first, before they, you know, got down to the nitty gritty. So, so I would agree that I do think the process seems to make sense, and I talked to Seth too. It's like all the phone calls going around this weekend trying to figure this out, but yeah. It seems
I love it when we come up onto a Rules Committee meeting. About the day before is when the phone starts ringing.
There you go.
That's why I get, never mind. So we ought to think of who's leading it. So this is TGSNA leading the show?
Well, I don't know if it's
Or
Parks and
teamwork,
Rec. According to Jack, his med.
Personally, I
Yeah.
think it's, Park and Rec.
Well, personally,
The TGSA in support.
well, they're
I wanna tell
ordinances,
that.
they're
It's a joint, it's a joint
ordinances.
effort.
So that, yeah,
Well,
that's the question. Do
You
both
want us
committees-
to do co-primary on it? No.
We've never done that, but let's do it.
It's fine.
No, it's not.
No, it's fine,
Okay.
whatever. It doesn't really matter. I think we'll be explaining and,
Yeah.
you know.
Well,
You know what, I
this
think
sounds
as
like
far as
legal
public-
documentation. Now, my thought is you make TGSNA primary. and-
As far as,
Park and Rec
as far as
secondary.
public relations are
I
concerned,
I
it
second
would
that.
probably better in the view of the electorate and
I'm
if
looking at
Park
it.
and Rec
Yeah,
were
right.
hired. Because no one understands what TGSNA is anyway. TGSA is holding hearing, people be scratching their heads if they Park and Rec is holding
I'll
the
take
hearing.
a motion. Michael?
TGSNA primary, Park and Rec secondary.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Great. All in favor?
Look at
Is there anybody else, are there any other
Partner, right?
committees that need to be assigned?
The only other one that,
I
Such
think-
as-
Do you think that public health and safety? Because
Well, I
we're
mean-
doing like no wake zones and things like that.
Yeah, but
that's
that's all
right.
covered by,
We're talking about enforcement too.
That's all.
That's
we-
yeah, and we're
enforcement.
talking
Code
about
changes, enforcement.
yeah, I mean, what are we gonna do? I mean,
Just asking.
We have two enthusiastic
did talk
committees, let's
about-
leave it there.
Very capable.
Well,
Capably
we
led.
did
No, we-
sit through 2 meetings and enforcement did come up as an important thing, like police don't like to put in laws that they can't enforce, et cetera, so.
Okay, you don't have to be,
Totally.
you don't have to be assigned,
You
but
can comment.
you could review and if your folks have anything they want to say about it, yes?
I mean, I think there's gonna be a lot of education. If you're not a voter, there's a lot more education that people need. If you're a
The most
voter,
important thing is to sign somebody who's gonna drive the process.
right.
I think TGSNA is probably good for that.
If you're talking about
And
enforcement,
besides,
you have
we
to
just
have
had a
public health and
motion. Did we
safety,
vote
but
on that
police are
motion?
involved.
No, we
Police are
haven't
part
yet.
of it.
No,
The process here. If you
Um,
just- you just-
Okay, we ready to vote,
No,
folks?
I think we should have public health and safety
I
involved
agree,
also.
I think they should
There's,
be,
there's enforcement, there's
Sorry.
police, as well as,
give it to your vice chair.
yeah. It's not gonna be it's,
All right,
No,
spend
I'll
5
public
minutes
health
on
and
it.
safety.
so you want public health and safety as
Bill-
secondary as well?
William
Fine.
Thompson,
No,
come to work.
Anybody
Is
else?
the vote as to whether TGSA needs to be leader? Is that the
We
vote?
already voted.
No, the vote is whether TGSNA is primary,
Yeah.
Park and Rec, and PH&S secondary.
is it a downside if we're co-primary? I don't see the big deal.
Okay, I would urge my colleagues to vote against that resolution in favor of having Park and Rec the leader,
Just tell
for
us
the
why.
optics of it, because
We'll draw more people to a public hearing.
Oh,
it is,
I think
more
voters.
palatable to have a well-known name holding the hearing and responsible.
I love it, Frank. The only problem is the parks
And
started
there's
to
no
meet
doubt
high
that-
water mark. In
there's
other
no
words, they
doubt.
don't take it to 100 waters.
Well,
I'm a voter, and there's no doubt that I am going
I really
to
don't care.
support
It
the whole
doesn't
thing.
matter.
all right,
But as far as the
folks,
title of the thing, I would
Take over here,
hope
Seth.
would vote
Yeah.
for
Back
it.
in.
let's keep moving here. We do have a motion that's been seconded on the floor that puts TGSNA primary, Park and Rec, and PH&S secondary. Any further discussion?
I urge my colleagues
All
to vote
those in
against.
favor?
3 minutes on
And
it.
didn't we say,
All those in favor, please.
didn't we include public health and safety?
Yeah,
Yes.
We did.
You
You
just
did.
said, okay,
The minutes reflect that.
it's a lot of chit chat tonight, so.
Yes, I noticed that.
We've got our
Okay.
ladies today.
You guys want to be here all night? Just keep, no. Okay, so all those in favor, please.
It's fine. We'll do the
What do
public
we
hearing
got?
together,
Okay,
even if
You
you're
will.
primary, doesn't matter.
we got opposed,
Joe and Frank?
Frank and Joe.
Joe and Frank.
Joe and Frank opposed, motion carries.
This is one
Next.
comment I'll make as far as,
I kinda get
when
it.
we have
Acquisition.
chairs of committees on this rules, it definitely changes some conversation. Because if the chairs weren't here,
Oh, they'd be.
we would assign, we would be, there was, I'm just saying.
Although one chair voted in favor and one chair voted opposed.
Anyway.
And Mac doesn't get to vote.
And make-
Next item, folks.
Happy here about.
Excuse me, next item, acquisition of property, Old Kings Highway and Sedgwick Avenue for State Department of Transportation.
PZH.
First of all, we haven't assigned it, this thing's been around for an eternity, but I don't think we've assigned anybody to it.
Planning, zoning, and
now.
housing.
Yeah, PZH.
PZH.
TG&H, PZ&H,
PZ&H.
primary, that's it. Acquisition, there's no money involved, right?
No money, no.
Okay, so can I have a motion, PZ&H, primary and sole committee,
I'll move the motion.
And I'll second it.
a second? Okay, ready to vote? All in favor? Okay, opposed? I see none.
That's what happens when
I'm
the chair's not
I
present.
see that, I see the clerk,
Very good.
I see the clerk typing vigorously. Good, next, the establishment of Darien Bloom's Gift Fund, that's probably F&B.
And Parks and Rec,
Park and Rec.
they've already presented to us.
Okay, so is Park and Rec primary?
We followed the invitation.
I don't know, it's a gift fund.
But I mean, I feel like we really know it, they did a really
Yeah,
good
but the
job
purpose is
presenting
setting
to
up the
us.
fund, not exactly how it's gonna be
Yeah.
used.
Well,
I mean, that's the mechanics of.
So
what-
F&B should
Well,
be
then
the
F&B
They
primary.
should be primary, I think
Yeah.
what we have to say will probably won't change, you know, we'll explain it.
So you wanna
They'll
put
they'll
Park
do
and
the
Rec
numbers.
secondary?
Yes, thank you.
Do you,
you can give the Blooms overview.
if some of the land they're suggesting is not parkland, does that still fall under your auspices?
Say that again?
It's not
Some of the
parkland.
property which this fund
Right.
will
None of it's parkland.
None of it's
ameliorate,
None of it's
would
parkland.
it be PZ&H?
Probably.
I'm just tossing
Yes,
that out.
you go. If it isn't parkland, we don't have any.
Do you know why we got it? Is because of the matrix that was set up. Yeah, no, I'm
Hey,
just saying.
that's what gave us the harbor too.
Voting on this on the 21st.
Thank you, Jack.
I'm just throwing, I'm thinking of some of the places that they've
Yeah,
mentioned,
no,
like
yeah,
by the
that's a good
firehouse
point.
there with the bricks.
That's a good
Absolutely.
point.
I don't know.
That's a really good point.
Just
Yes.
Do I have a motion?
But
What was the
F&B is
motion? What did
primary,
they-
because
I mean-
we're doing.
I got F&B primary, Park and Rec secondary.
I mean, what is P and Z gonna, are we gonna have beautification come and present to them prior to the
Doesn't
next?
make any sense.
Now,
It's like they're far down the line here.
Yeah, but they're trying to put, one of
I
their things is
understand.
putting bricks right in front of
They're
the
not gonna do
firehouse.
bricks.
They're not gonna put
It's gonna
bricks.
they're gonna redo what's, well,
It's
redo
over,
the area.
actually, it's not right in front of the firehouse.
It's like to the side there.
It's actually state property, I think they said.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
It's state
to
property.
me, that is a zoning, I don't know, that's your call.
I don't think that,
I don't believe that
Before
John
planning and zoning,
Zagrowski told them they had to go in front of PZ and H.
Yeah.
Or planning and zoning to get this approved.
I guess the ultimate configuration would have to go in front of planning and zoning, right?
It's
Depending
existing,
what it is.
it's existing, they're just refurbishing this. All
Yeah,
they're doing
it's
is
just-
Alright.
refurbishing.
It's maintenance.
Right.
They're
All right.
already under their.
All right, so,
They're putting in lilies.
folks, I'll take a motion for F&B primary, Park and Rec secondary.
Chris,
Lois, second, Adele,
Yeah.
further comment? Ready to vote? All in favor? Okay. Opposed? See none, it's unanimous, motion carries. Resolution amendment to specify that the Monroe Heights Fire Department, this is an amendment to something we've already passed.
Mhm.
We forgot to put in the 501c3, or someone did, I won't get into pointing fingers. And so that's I guess TGSNA, huh?
Or
Because
F&B, because you're saying it's
you
just
said we have amendment to this.
saying it's a 501c3, that's the essence of it?
Our absentee friend here this evening is very literate on this topic, and TGSA
Yeah,
is minus on the
Yeah.
thing, so
I feel like
Okay,
it should
so
be
it's
F&B.
let it be F&B.
Yeah, bond
F&B,
council.
Yeah,
all right.
yeah.
Bond council
F&B.
brought this up.
Yeah.
All right, and
And that's it.
others, public works,
I don't think so.
public
I don't see a
health
connection
and
there.
safety, it's fire department, but it's,
We've already
it
voted.
has to be,
already
we've
voted.
already
Just-
voted that
Just a
piece.
word.
So, just motion then for F&B primary.
I'll make that one.
Great, Mark,
I'll,
second, yeah,
I'll second it. You need a second?
okay, Mike, second. Ready to vote, all in favor? Okay, opposed? I see none, unanimous, motion carries. Okay, we'll discuss and take action on setting the agenda.
The part of information before we do that.
Right.
Can you refresh, did we vote on the procedure to the harbor, whether to go to committee, then hearing, then committee? Because I outlined it 2 ways, hoping that it would be the simpler one. Do we all agree that we should follow that simpler protocol?
Which is the simple.
If I'm asking, in which case Adele and Krista and I can get to work on getting the public notice out and getting the wheels going, because there should not be anything left in front of those wheels. We can actually move.
But has TGSNA received this presentation like they did for Park and Rec?
The thought would be that when we have the public hearing, that they make a presentation that evening, and then have the public make their comments, informed by what was what in that presentation. So that means that once we get some of the mechanics straightened out with Wayne, we can start to notice the meeting and put it on the schedule.
So the committee work
There
doesn't.
should be
intend
no
to
obstacle, I want to.
TGSNA's not gonna have a clue what they're talking about.
There should be no obstacles towards
Have they-
getting that meeting going.
They would listen to the public comment
Okay.
and then have the committee.
Doesn't matter, they'll have their own meeting.
The
I
TGSA members
would
wanted to hear
support
what
this
the
plan B,
public said
which
before
is public hearing,
they chimed in.
back
Okay, I
to,
want to make sure Chris is on board with that.
No, I would, whatever,
So
this
can
is
I
your
vote?
decision.
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
just putting that in the paper.
I'd say the chair of TGSNA can set that up and run it.
Well,
Primary.
Poor Krista has a problem because the
I don't have any
legislation-
problem, Frank.
The legislation is it has to go into 2 town newspapers. No, we don't have 2 town newspapers, and it has to
Barely
run
has one.
twice. And that the charter part needs a 10-day delay. and the
I'd like to
ordinance
express
needs
my
15.
deep
It's a-
concern
it's a
about this,
snarl.
but I
I
have
just-
none. Shall we keep moving here?
Okay, please.
I'll
so
go with,
everybody's okay.
I
Public
understand,
hearing and then the committees.
So we have a go.
We have to go.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Modification to Appendix D, I'll go with, that will bring us back to the dog fines because we have a number now, as I understand it.
And the magic number, Frank?
I received a message from the head of the, no, from a member of the Board of Selectmen who's also head of the advisory commission, whatever, that they recommended a fee of $100 plus administrative expenses. And so if you turn your page to the yellow page, first page in the yellow section here is a request that came in from the Board of Selectmen for us to do something. The second page is a resolution that town council drafted up, which bears some comment, but the final whereas, I will recommend that it takes that out. And then fill in the blank of $100 plus administrative expenses.
So delete the whereas, and they also have the date wrong, because it says April 8th.
Yeah, the Board of Selectmen will be discussing the
So
time
it's
structure of April 8th, which is
Yeah.
the wrong date. But that paragraph doesn't have anything to do with anything.
Frank, I just have a question, I don't know, it says in public, this is, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th whereas. In public places, including Great Island, so, public places, is that all town property? Or
No.
Parks and Rec, like, we
the
talk about
The,
this?
the 1052 applies to
Oh.
public property.
And why?
And so by inclusion, that's Great Island.
But,
So it's not parkland then?
It's
No.
not park,
no, it isn't
It's-
park.
public.
That's been a big distinction all along. The ordinance only applies to public property. It has nothing to do with the parks. The parks are their own entity.
Highland Farm, is that?
That's
town,
a, that's a town
public.
property.
It's not a park, it's not a park.
The problem is everybody refers to Great Island as a park. Even
Yeah.
the people, you know, that put together all the nice slides and everything, they call it a park. And it's not.
And won't,
Yeah.
you know, as soon as you do that, you restrict it.
Right.
So if we're doing all this, then why are we not including the parks?
Well, you can't,
Because it's not under our
because of the,
control.
yeah, the parks are under the control of the commission.
If I-
There's nothing to say that they can't follow the
Right.
same.
I know the Board of Selectmen can't for the parks, but
When we did the town, when we did the ordinance, the parks, at the time, the Parks Commission kind of did their own thing at the same time, so we were kind of in cahoots with each
So
other.
you're saying if you're in Woodland Park or Selleck Woods, this doesn't apply?
Correct.
Correct.
The way
That's
the ordinance
ridiculous.
That is
reads,
ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
But that's,
Section 10
but that's the charter.
No, but that wasn't the, supposedly, I thought this thing was to cover all
no,
areas.
to clarify that though,
Yeah.
1052,
Yeah,
paragraph C, point number 2, says, dogs in town parks, which are subject to the rules and regulations of the Darien Parks and Commission, and that's an exception.
okay, no, I, you
Yeah,
know,
it's,
I'm just saying, I
you know,
think we
Park and
should
Rec,
somehow get that covered.
Park and Rec can do what they wanna do.
Oh, in other words,
They
we
can
can't
establish their
tell
own
them.
fund.
Yeah.
Is this covered by those?
Yeah, well, that's the other thing too, is that
Can I ask a question? You said $100, but then you said an administration
Plus
fee.
administration.
So how, do we just say plus administration fee
It's a
because
state.
it's going to be a moving number? Is that why we say it like that?
Well, it's
Frankly, I
the
don't
time,
know.
That was my message.
Okay.
No, there's a
$100
state,
plus
because it was
administration.
$25 plus another,
right, but it may
$4.
increase, state will be able to increase it whenever they want probably, so if we say, if we leave it like that. But Mac, what was your point gonna be about dogs?
just that the other thing is that everyone talks about the leash law. It's not a leash law, it's a dog ordinance. And the second part B is cleaning up after your dog. So this will apply to that also. So in other words, if you don't pick up your dog's poop, that's a $100 fine.
but the state of Connecticut's laws concerning leashes and stuff still applies to every place, correct?
No, as long as you have
This is
a,
We have something more
if
restrictive.
you have a town ordinance more restrictive, that supersedes state law.
Does the state law apply to parks?
I don't know.
I think so. I think that's where they
That
fall
was the
back on the
default back
fine,
on.
the
Correct.
default
The
fine.
parks go by the state, and this document would cover anything other than the state, the parks.
This
Correct.
this $100 is about twice as much as what the state,
Right, that's $49,
you know.
but that's the park bit, okay.
But what I find interesting is, you know, I don't know what my committee will say about this. There were people that wanted a much higher fine.
Yeah, you guys could raise it.
So $100 is, you know, that's what
Yeah.
I understand that's what the selectmen are recommending. So,
It's your decision.
we have to watch their discussion and see where.
yeah.
But so this is going
Right.
to the,
All right, so,
this is going to.
we're gonna assign, we've got public works, public health and safety, two parks. What are we doing on the dog fines?
Why public works?
PH&S?
Yeah, why would Public Works be on this?
I think you just misspoke.
Oh, okay.
I meant
Okay.
PH&S.
Okay.
Okay.
I think they're the only ones.
Uh,
TGS.
Any other that we can
Okay.
include? I don't
TGS&I?
think so.
Well, TGS&A, because they have to remind by Appendix D.
Yeah,
That's a stretch. We're voting on it on the RTM to adopt the table, on the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen. And this topic has gone on and on with all the various bodies in town. Don't get a whole new one involved in the thing. It's just not productive.
all right, so we'll take a motion for PH&S primary, TGS&A secondary.
No.
No.
I
Yeah.
wanted to, no, I was objected to it Now, put some other committee other than TGS&A on that.
But if it's wording, if it's anything.
Well, maybe
It's not a legal thing, it's just an entry for a table.
It's just the
It's
They can all
Exactly.
discuss whether $100 is a good number or a bad number until they turn blue in the face. Only thing TGS&A has to do is to say.
The ordinance remains the same, it's just that they had,
Okay.
there was never a fine attached to it.
So
So it's an
you're
addition.
leaning toward PH&S, that's it?
But wait, so if we're adding an addition to Appendix D to have a dog fine, right?
You know,
So wouldn't TGS&A have the involved from that?
But there's no as far as the types of matters that we've been discussing this evening, of modifications to Appendix B, these have substance to them. Entry of a one-line item on a table that has been debated by many other bodies in town doesn't really have a lot of throw weight. And that's why I just really think it would be a waste of time to involve a committee that doesn't really have anything to do with this thing.
All right, I'll take a motion on this.
And the motion is?
To assign.
See, I tried to finesse
PH&S
that.
primary.
PH&S and that's it. Primary,
moved.
right? Is that it? I've got a Michael so moved, second. I swear I heard Mark say second.
I don't think that was Mark.
Well,
This is the third rail you're
I
touching.
I saw Adele raise her hand.
I'll do it.
All right, the second from Adele. Okay, ready to vote. All in favor?
I don't know, I'm still confused as to why TGS&A is not even just giving it its blessing.
I agree.
It's just very consistent.
Yeah.
Like, we're picking and choosing when they should, it should be a one-line comment in your meeting. That's how I feel.
I feel like they're responsible for all the code. Why isn't this is code?
Sometimes you have to look at the consistency with a little more perspective.
I think that's when we get ourselves in
And
trouble. That's
this
just
is this a difference without a distinction or distinction without a difference? I've made my case
Yeah.
that it's really sort of a perfunctory thing, that it's just sort of a waste of people's time.
Can I ask a
I was-
question that's not on your,
I'll,
what you got out there?
you know, if previous mover will withdraw, I'll ask again for a motion on this.
We already have a- we already have a
We have the
motion.
motion, you just.
I know we do.
What's the process?
Someone withdrawing their motion?
That's what I
Okay,
was
then
saying,
my
somebody
motion.
wanted to, nope, they're staying with it. So, give me the motion again.
To assign PH&S primary on Appendix D of the dog fines.
Okay. Discussion, all in favor?
To
Aye,
assign.
please.
To assign?
You sign, yeah.
Yeah. No votes? 1, 2, 2 noes. Abstentions? I could smell it, so maybe that's, no, motion carries.
So does this just go straight to the RTM then?
No,
PH&S.
easy.
Yeah, but it'll go on the
So
agenda.
you got,
It's not going on the agenda.
but it's gonna be on the on the.
Well, they
what I
have
meant
to,
by
they have to
that.
have a hearing on it, yeah.
Do we have to have it here? That's what,
that's the question.
that's
Oh,
what
we're not
we were
gonna have
talking-
it here.
That, I know.
Of course not.
But is
No, I don't
it-
think so. I think this goes on the agenda. All right, I have a draft warning here that I gave you.
Now,
I was guessing at the time, so it's, oh, and I forgot, well, no, so I put the dispatchers union contract first so that anybody from town who wants to get in and talk about it could leave afterward. Then acquisition of the property at Old Kings Highway, establishment of the Darien Bloom's Gift Fund,
Are we,
resolution,
can I ask a question? Are we
Yes.
having, Adele, are we having anyone from beautification come and speak at the RTM meeting?
No.
Then if we're not, then I wouldn't, then it's not. I was gonna say if we did have someone, then we'd wanna move them up. But if we're not, then it's just Jack. Okay, thanks.
Okay, and then the resolution amendment to specify in the Roden Heights Fire Department, that's just paperwork, and I put Appendix D at the end. if that's okay. And Appendix B, though, I'm just looking here, some of this, did we, the part 5 and 6, are they still included?
Yes, early on, we were all looking at 6, 5 got, typographically, when we discovered it later, it got stuck at the bottom. Wayne did the right thing, he pulled it out, 5, which is then Robert's rules and the definition of a form, and he made it a freestanding resolution. So that'd be a quickie, and then there'd be the function.
Okay, and then it's part 8, section 4 is amended,
Yeah.
right?
Yes,
Okay,
as amended.
so does that look straight to everybody?
Where's the dogs?
Dog is,
No.
no,
So
wait,
here's
the
a question
dog,
though with,
Where's dogs?
I
with
meant to- I
vacation.
didn't put the dog, because at the time I was talking, yeah, we gotta add the dog, right?
Good catch, Lois.
Put appendix, I'll put it before appendix B, I'll put appendix D.
Seth, can I ask a question?
Yeah,
Do you guys have time because of vacation? Do you have a meeting scheduled between now and the 21st? And will you have time to do that?
Well, I think we'll do it whatever next Wednesday is. Next
And just
Wednesday,
hope
middle
that
of school
people are
break.
available.
Is
Is that
that,
school break?
is
Yeah.
that school break
Yeah.
that week?
They got a
In
fine
fact,
for the.
but we
No,
have to be a
yeah,
Zoom,
yes.
we have to be a Zoom,
Nobody knows
Zoom
the
meeting.
fine.
Anyway,
Just they got the- who's gonna
Okay,
drive?
so
I don't think it's gonna take very long
I
to just rubber
got hit by
stamp.
a car.
just before appendix B, we'll put in appendix D,
I had a guy
Dog
back
fines.
into me, nobody was charged.
and then
But they don't
appendix
charge you
B
for these things.
would be, so that would be number 8, and then number 9
Paying the stuff.
would be appendix B with all of those amendments.
They
So,
don't-
do we have that right? Is that what we want?
Don't fault, I get 35.
Okay, I'll take a motion to
And they were-
Did
they-
you know who did it?
approve the agenda as I went through it.
I'll make that
They
motion.
just came
Okay,
over.
Mark, second from Frank.
Hitting somebody?
All those in favor? Okay, opposed? I see none. Abstentions, I see none, it's unanimous, carries. Agenda is set. Next item, other business. The Technology Committee would like to speak. We had debate about this, and I wound up thinking it wasn't on, and I was informed by the chair that, oh yes.
Well, just a couple of things. Most of you know we had a training session right before this, so almost everybody was trained, and there will be updated, every time we do this, some of the technology changes, so we'll have the notes coming out. And Mike and I will support whatever needs to be done for the different committees. I think the couple of important things is, one, the ability to make sure we record a meeting. And there's 2 ways it can be done. One way is to automatically default to every meeting gets recorded from the start, and then Jim Cameron edits out the beginning, which, that's one way. The other way is just make sure that each of the committees record their meeting. And in that line, we strongly urge that everybody have a co-host, or somebody be the co-host. So it's not that everything about the meeting falls on the committee chair. It just doesn't make sense. So letting people in and coordinating the, if you want to do any motion, because there's a thing up there that lets you focus or not focus on a meeting. And also,
You got it.
yeah, you've got accolades for that. And then make sure that the meeting gets recorded. And so I originally thought that we would have it done automatically, and then some people were very concerned about that what happens if somebody slips up, and we could get really embarrassed.
Understand that she starts the TV 79 recording well before the meeting's called to agenda, so that the chair isn't upcut by calling the meeting to motion. So it's pretty standard, and Jim just cuts it to when the moderator calls the meeting to order. So it's whether the chair wants to accept the responsibility of forgetting to record. Because if you start it as soon as the meeting starts, you don't have to worry about it. If you want to accept the responsibility that you forget to record, then you accept that responsibility.
So we automatically, there's a switch that we can turn on that says all Zoom meetings will be recorded from the start of starting up the meeting. It's up to, I guess us
As a chair, I just say you really want to be on your best behavior from the beginning. Don't telling jokes or anything.
The old hot mic problem.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
right.
it will be edited, but
So,
not 100%. So, would appreciate.
Who does the edit? Is it Jim Cameron?
Jim Cameron.
Only Jim Cameron?
Only Jim Cameron, unless he's on vacation, but only Jim Cameron.
And
Okay, all set, everybody?
Thoughts,
I have-
no thoughts. Wait, we need a decision on
One
where we
thing.
wanted to go.
One thing,
Yes.
on the 21st, one of the committee reports on the various matters that we've assigned out, TGSNA is a primary on the 3 Appendix B matters that we discussed this evening. Is it appropriate when those committee reports are presented that they refer to the meeting that the TGSNA had to approve the matter, to bring it to this body, rather than referring to some quickie meeting that they had to reapprove what they approved in the first place? Because the reason we were able to discuss those matters is because TSA is approved. So I would like your blessing or nod that we don't have to go back and re-bless what we have blessed in the first place. My request then is that we honor the meeting that was held last week to approve them, and then not have to have
For Appendix B.
another rubber stamp meeting.
Yeah,
Not have a rubber stamp meeting.
TGSNA brought this to the Rules Committee, as it stood, to be placed on the agenda of the RTM or not. And the Rules Committee voted to put it on the agenda with one amendment.
As amended.
And so that's it.
We will give reports.
Yes,
But the
you
report
report,
will
but
reference
there's
it.
no further, other than,
I can get to this.
obviously you supported it, to get it on to bring it before
Thank
Rules
you.
Committee.
Thank you all.
If you wanted to talk about approving the amendment, that's fine, but.
So I'd like
to
to
me-
just go back under the committee chairs to whether we want to start automatically or do it manually.
Oh,
Having screwed up,
Adele,
personally, I would not
don't be so hard
mind
on yourself.
having it started automatically.
It's probably easier for everybody, that's why I say ask our chair, but as long as it's, because there is chat on our group before it starts.
I know, I'm not
As long
thrilled
as
about
it's-
that, but.
As long as it's definitely just Jim Cameron who's editing and not a wide variety of people.
That's just me, so other people can have their own thoughts.
It won't always be.
I make a motion that it be manual.
I agree with that.
I can live either way.
okay, so I have no problem making an announcement in front of the RTM to just remind everybody that you have to remember to record these meetings of the committees.
And ask the clerk as to be their assistant, or, I still put up signs to remember to record, even in the middle. You just forget because you get busy, but just
You should
ask,
have a co-host.
ask a clerk to remind you,
Yeah.
that 2 of them remember
And you
to
said
record
you
the
can
meeting.
have 2, you can have like a vice chair and a co-host, right? Or any 2 that she decides at any one time.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just ask something?
Anything
too?
else? Yes.
To just remind,
Yeah.
maybe in your opening comments that, I'm having trouble getting quorums at Public Health and Safety, and I don't think I'm the only one. Really remind people that, this is an obligation, and I shouldn't have to be chasing people, to try to be making 5 phone calls and make sure that I'm gonna have a quorum. And I'm not the only one, so.
No, you're right.
And I'm also seeing it in our district. We have many people that aren't attending our meetings.
Yeah,
So-
and I made an announcement before the RTM, but I also call each district chair separately. If you are elected, you run for the office and you get elected, then there's not even a question about, it's important that you show up for the meetings. And if you're not going to or can't or whatever, or made a mistake, that's fine, leave, and we'll bring somebody else, but we've gotta have attendance and we've gotta have people who are dedicated and wanna do things for the town seriously. I will make another announcement and I will call the district chair.
I can't make it.
Some I don't have to call very far.
That's great, thank you.
Pass it on.
Ready?
Can I ask
I'll
you,
take a motion to adjourn.
can I just make one more comment?
Oh,
I've caused
wait a
I've caused
minute.
a lot of trouble tonight, I
You're
think.
feisty tonight.
No,
I know, I didn't eat dinner, so maybe I should.
How did it really
I
taste?
think I took a note about, and for a different reason, but I noticed that the graduation has been changed to the same date as our.
Yeah, I saw that.
As our meeting,
Oh,
so it's a word.
Next meeting when we'll
In June, we'll talk
put
about
that
it.
on the agenda
Okay.
and try and figure out a new date, or I'll suggest a new date.
sounds good.
We'll go from there.
So we won't decide till May that we're moving it in June?
Oh,
Well, my experience has been that people don't think about what's going on until about May.
Foundation.
The
You know, I remember
I think.
booking my travel team into a tournament in Wilton the day after school got out. That was a major issue. I had to make phone calls and beg to make sure that we had a team going to the tournament. So I learned about that. I just, so we'll have to look at.
The only thing is, just let me finish, is the business of you change the date, if it becomes a special meeting, and if that affects what you can put on the agenda. And so, but if you make that change, but
Well,
then.
we're far enough
30
advanced, so
Exactly, as
now-
long as it's 30 days ahead of time,
Right,
it would
It's
still
still a
be a
regular
regular
meeting,
meeting,
yeah.
okay.
Seth,
Yeah.
why wouldn't we discuss it in April? Why wouldn't you put it out there in April? I do think last year people had someone may have made plans a long
Fine.
time ago.
No, we'll do it
I
earlier.
think more notice might be better than
Fine.
less.
Yeah, but we just had our April rules meeting, the next rules meeting is in May.
Yeah.
Right, but I'm saying to discuss it in the April, let people know in the April RTM meeting that we,
Then we should have discussed it tonight to reset it, unless Seth's just gonna pick a date and that's it.
well, I guess there's pros and cons to resetting it, because if you set it to the week before, people may already have things on there. I mean, there's certain Mondays that people have saved for RTM meetings, so I don't know how we make the decision. I mean, last year, there were people that loved the change, and there were people that couldn't make it and were upset. And I think the same thing will happen, so we either have to, stick with it and just know that people won't be there, or go ahead and change it to probably the week before. If you give people notice in April for a June change versus May, it might help them.
Well, yeah, that's right.
So we haven't adjourned this meeting yet. I know we adjourned
Well,
Put it on
we've
the-
got other business,
Yeah.
broadly speaking, we can toss that in under other business. I can just move it a week earlier,
Monday, June 9.
yeah.
When is rules? We may,
The second, June 2nd.
It'll be a weekend.
so it'll be 1 week.
Yeah,
Oh, we can move the rules meeting, that's
June 9,
That doesn't trigger the 30-day warning, does it?
yeah.
When is the rules?
I remember it was tight, and we moved it late because last year there was stuff that came up that we had
What
to,
days
yeah.
Is it scheduled?
So that's why I moved it,
Yeah.
to where it was.
Won't be.
Oh, it's Memorial Day, it's Memorial Day
Calling from
I have
home.
no,
Well, that could be Tuesday.
you wanna do June 9, folks?
For what? For the meeting?
June 9.
I'm in favor of moving the RTM meeting to June 9th from June 16th.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
I think we should.
Okay, all right, we'll move it to June 9.
And I'm not even rooting for either of the two teams playing tonight.
Oh,
Now I can make the meeting a Dell
They're
thing.
gonna have too much on.
I wasn't there on the
I just want
16th.
you to know, it's my anniversary, so.
Oh, the 16th?
No, the 9.
Oh.
Never mind, it often happens.
Oh. I can't go tonight. No, it's a.
Meeting
It's okay.
Are we adjourning the meeting?
Yeah, I wasn't gonna go on the 16th. My son spoke in favor of moving to the 16th. So we were the driving force behind the
That's
change.
maximum time to
I know, I
accumulate whatever it
I
is.
saw his face.
It's gonna be interesting.
At least he got up there, better than nothing, so.
Did you sign?
Mike, we
We're
were
on
there.
the-
I'll take a motion.
You actually have a meeting, there was a motion to move it to the 9th.
Everybody, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So that was, moved by
Second.
Larry.
All in favor, please rise.
Okay.
Here,
Thanks, Seth.
Frank, take the names back. Just